2 o'clock. That's the possibility.
And when it was time for sorting, collating, and counting, it's the final.
Six in Haba. You mean power will make you powerful to come and take power from power?
So they have to just look for
mass action is critical.
Okay, Barrister Esther is so passionate with this project Nigeria. Now, we have this young population, the strength of a young population, but then this is middle class. How
making you know what is happening. Truly, they are not. Because once you are kept in perpetual ignorance, they are kept in perpetual power. And that is the philosophy of power everywhere. Power seeks in Haba. You mean power will make you powerful to come and take power from power?
So they have to just look for
mass action is critical.
Okay, Barrister.
Former head of state, General Abdulsalami Abubakar, sued for peace after.
So I think, and this is not about Niger alone, you know, it's a very big issue across the country. And I think as we are getting our procedural democracy right and deepening democracy, so that people who vote on 4-year basis,
he said, if I
on Niger alone, you know, it's a very big issue across the country. And I think as we are getting our procedural democracy right, let us begin to think of deepening governance and deepening democracy so that people who vote on 4-year basis can see something concrete coming out of that. Then they will be excited, whether it is in the sun or in the rain, whether they are called upon to vote 5 times in a week, they will come out and demonstrate that civic responsibility. So there's a report about development
places, and some also advance a new facility for the governorship coalition center, which I've of course been using since the upper south of the presidential assembly election. So it is a center, and at the moment, activities are going on in the various wards where coalition is going on, and the various
especially where we have office. We're on ground in Osho, we're on ground in Ekiti, and I'm getting report from the observers we deployed. The same thing.
People living with
disability,
particularly visually impaired.
Priority voting.
Okay, priority
they
voting.
did.
What about that?
They did. A couple of places we went and we interacted with people. They did. They got that. As a matter of fact, in one polling unit where a person with albinism was standing in the sun, in the hot sun, as soon as I went and told the PO, let it was. The
situation here in Guber, in our North local government area.
Ogboro, Aruterede, and Austin Edemodu from Delta State. And now in Edo State, sorting and counting at wards and units are winding down already as results from some polling units in Ego and Oedo local government areas have been moved to the
Ego was expected for the delay.
You had your men also monitoring,
yes.
yes. So what they found out in different polling that taking it away from Edo State, we had other reports from almost all the states in the country. You know, the turnout wasn't as expected. Yeah. So, generally speaking, what would have been the problem? Because we had,
you know,
so much from the Benin Network Center. We now return to Abuja.
Very well, Ogo Chukwukaona. Thanks a lot. We still have our guest seated. And not only guest this time around, I'm being joined by my colleague, Henry John, who is going to take over after now as I say my goodbye on the show. Nigeria Decide Studio continues.
We're looking at the fact that we had very few people turn out for this election, and then we're having some people disciplined and some people. All right, thank you so much for that report all the way from Anambra. We shall now take some other reports from other parts of the country now.
Counting of the ballot papers as cast by the eligible voters at this polling unit.
3 invalid.
Your name?
Sunday Blessing.
Sunday Blessing. You are?
The presiding officer of... Yes, sir.
Turnout of people observing this process, but this is to say voting actually ended hours before now, but collation could not start till about 2 p.m. I have with me Mr. John. He is a domestic observer. Mr. John, what have you...
A report from Zamfara, where, of course, like you heard, there was relative peace. But we have a security report coming from Imo State, and the report says some fake soldiers have been arrested.
Police and the military is calm, peaceful, and ongoing.
Okay. Thank you, CP Dasogonadanchi. We've just heard directly from the horse's mouth on the arrest of fake soldiers and fake policemen who were asked to disrupt the business. So now, everywhere is calm as both the police and other security agencies are on top of the situation.
All right, thank you so much for that report from Imo State. Just before we take the next report, what do you think, Barrister?
Part of the learning.
And that was why the attention in this election turned out the way it did. And for some of the political actors, you know, it just tells you the twist to the political elites that we have. You know, same people who 2 weeks ago were decrying the deplorable state, you know, in quotes of INEC, are today saying we have 100%. It tells you something. If I am winning, I don't need to shout or I don't need to cry. That is just the clear indication. But that is just to tell you how the political elite actually think. They are people with not even just double face, a lot of phases. So and that is why you're seeing that reaction from them today. But overall, we've seen great improvements from what we saw during the presidential election and what just happened today. And for me, of the polling materials,
some that were destroyed. The likelihood is that some of those places would have to redo the whole process again. So those are challenges that exist, and we should understand that certain actions can actually result to taking us back moving forward.
All right, thank you. At this point,
Lagos State.
I don't agree that we should reduce the number of parties. We're in a multi-party, major parties, you know. So more to do with perception.
Okay.
And you know, perception might be different from reality. But perception is only...
Then in the end, the figure that is being read out does not correlate. What that transparency would do is that it will validate couple
upon your future, technically, if we do not continue to push until we get what we want. I know that Jake is not in my...
So let me... a conducive environment for me to participate in a process. I will not participate. That makes it more complicated.
But come to think of it, I'm worried because I agree that these are issues. But looking at what you suffer, you know, if a wrong leader is elected by a group of people.
You put that leader in position.
I'm talking about you.
Talking about us making sacrifice.
Yes,
okay.
Because you said you for 57 years.
Things are not working. The question we keep asking ourselves, and I would also tell you, sometimes I ask myself the same questions.
Okay. Well, thank you, JC and Jake. But you know, I'm going to let you go shortly. But you know, I want to say that I agree that people living with disability are, you know, peculiar, and maybe some of the.
Because if we look at it, we've been on the decline. So I'm even scared for 2023 how it's going to be like.
And the only thing is that people should come out and vote in large so much so that they can make their choice clear.
While others view it from the angle of efficiency that made the process easier and faster.
But this time around, I can see an improvement. The polls